Hi, everyone. Welcome back to English with Gemma, where we turn practice into progress. Today's mini-sode is actually going to be what I originally intended mini-sodes to be, which is a slower paced episode that is intending to be shorter than the full episodes. Um, I realized that when I first started the idea of mini-sodes, I really did want to focus on talking slower because I know that, there's a lot of people with different English levels that are interested in my podcast. And I would say that the full episodes are definitely for higher levels. So I do speak faster in those. So today I want to make a conscious effort to slow down and make these mini-sodes accessible for people with lower levels. So I hope that I can do that for you guys. And today we're going to be talking about the hidden meanings of actually, basically, and other filler words in English. So they might seem really simple at first, but actually, see what I did there? We're diving into these little words that native speakers use all the time. And they're very important because they come up in casual speech every single day in many sentences. So these are words like actually, basically, literally, or if you're British, literally, and honestly. So they carry a lot of hidden information about what the speaker is thinking and feeling. So it's very important that you know what they are, what they mean, and of course, how to use them. So, if you've ever wondered why native speakers say actually so much, or why someone might start a sentence with basically, this episode is for you. Understanding these words will not only help you sound more natural, but it will help you also pick up on those subtle emotions and intentions behind what people are saying. So, let's get started. Let's start with actually. This is probably one of the most common filler words in English, and it has several different meanings and uses depending on context and tone. So, number one is correcting a misconception or a misunderstanding. So, that's the most common use of actually. It's to gently correct someone or clarify something. For example, I thought you were from London. Actually, I'm from Manchester. So here actually softens that correction and that revelation of the true information that we want to convey. And without actually, the response might sound a bit blunt, direct, or even defensive. So this word helps maintain politeness and reveal the proper information. Because if somebody says to me, "Oh, I thought you were from London," and I say, "I'm from Manchester," without saying, "Actually, I'm from Manchester," that actually really helps to soften that response. So that's the first way that we use actually. The second way is to express surprise or highlight contrast. Sometimes actually introduces something unexpected. For example, I thought the exam would be really difficult, but actually it was quite easy. This shows a contrast between what the speaker expected and what actually happened or what really happened. It adds emphasis to the surprising part of your sentence. The final use of actually is changing your mind mid sentence. Native speakers often use actually when they reconsider something while speaking. I'll have a coffee. Actually, make that a tea. Actually is showing that I just changed my mind. It's like a verbal backspace button on your keyboard, but the keyboard is your brain. So you want to go back on what you said and change your mind quickly. So remember, tone really matters. Be careful with actually because the tone can change its meaning. If you say it with a sharp tone, it can sound condescending or even passive aggressive. For example, actually, I already knew that, right? So I'm like annoyed and I'm implying that you're telling me something obvious. So always keep your tone friendly when you're using the word actually. All right, let's move on to basically. Basically is an incredibly useful word for simplifying complex information or getting to the point of something. So the first use of basically is simplifying or summarizing. When you want to explain something in simpler terms, basically is your best friend. For example, the movie is basically about a guy who travels through time to save his family. You're stripping away all the unnecessary details and just giving the core idea, the main idea. It's perfect for when you don't want to over explain or for when someone asks for a quick summary of something. The next use of basically is to downplay or be modest. Downplaying something means making something sound less exciting or less intense. You're just like, this thing happened, but it's not a big deal. That's downplaying something. So you can use basically to make something sound less impressive or less complicated than it really is. For example, somebody might say, "Oh, wow, Gemma, you're an English teacher." And I can just say, my job, basically, I just reply to emails all day. So it's not true. It's a huge oversimplification, but I'm using basically to act modest or casual about something. All right. And the last use of basically is to dismiss unnecessary details. When someone asks for details that you don't think are important, basically can show that and can give just the essential information about something. So somebody might say, how did the meeting go? And you could reply, basically, they agreed to everything we proposed. You're signaling to them, here's what matters, ignore the rest. All right, let's move on to literally, or the British pronunciation, literally. So, literally or literally has caused some controversy in the past. Traditionally, literally means in a literal sense, exactly as stated. But nowadays, people use literally for emphasis, to exaggerate. So, the first meaning is the true literal meaning. When something actually genuinely happened exactly as you describe it, you can use literally. For example, I literally bumped into my old teacher at the supermarket yesterday. This means you physically bumped into them, not just saw them from a distance or casually happened upon them. The word emphasizes that you literally physically touched this person, not figuratively. So that's the true meaning of literally. But the most common native speaker way to use literally is for emphasis and to kind of over exaggerate. For example, I'm literally dying of hunger right now, or I'm literally so bored, right? So obviously, you're not actually dying, but literally intensifies that feeling and exaggerates. So it's extremely common in casual speech, native speakers, and young people as well. All right, let's move on to our last one, honestly. Honestly is interesting because it's supposed to emphasize truthfulness, but it often signals something else entirely. So the first use of honestly is emphasizing sincerity. If you're being sincere, you're being honest. Sometimes it genuinely means I am being truthful with you. For example, my student might ask me some really complicated grammar questions sometimes, and I might say, honestly, I don't know the answer to that question right now, but let me get back to you. This shows that you're being straightforward, you're being honest, and you're not just making something up to sound good. You're being genuine and authentic by starting your sentence with honestly, I don't really know. The second use of honestly is to express frustration or disbelief. So it can be used when you're complaining or expressing that you're very frustrated. Excuse me. For example, Honestly, I can't believe he said that. Here, it's more about expressing exasperation rather than emphasizing that you're being truthful. The speaker is venting about their feelings, or like, I honestly don't understand why she would say that. So I'm not trying to show that I'm being honest. I'm trying to emphasize that I'm annoyed about something. The last use of honestly is to share an opinion that you might not usually feel comfortable sharing. So honestly can be that introduction to a very candid, a very honest opinion about something. So your friend might be asking you for advice over and over and over again, and you don't really want to tell them. But then finally, you can just be like, honestly, I don't really agree with you. Or honestly, I didn't really enjoy the movie like everybody else did. So this signals to the listener that the speaker is about to share their real, authentic, unfiltered thoughts or feelings. So there are a few more common filler words that I'll just quickly touch on, and then I'll wrap up the episode. So we have obviously, this can mean it's clear that blah, 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 but you can also do it to sound condescending or sarcastic. Like, obviously, like I already knew that. Or you can just say it nicely and say, um, obviously, I speak with an American accent. So I'm not being rude. It's obvious, right? The next one, seriously. Seriously can be used to emphasize that you mean what you're saying. Like, I seriously need you to listen to me. I'm being genuine. Or seriously can express surprise. Like, seriously? You've never had pizza? It's like, really? Seriously? That's crazy. So expressing surprise. And then finally, we have technically. Technically is used to introduce a precise or pedantic point, often to correct someone. So somebody might say, oh, I love vegetables. I love tomatoes. And I could say, technically, tomatoes are fruits, not vegetables. I'm being a little condescending, but I am using it to explain to someone a precise point. So, how can we use these words naturally in speech? Listen and notice patterns. Pay attention to how native speakers use these filler words and then try to use them in the same contexts. Watching TV shows, listening to podcasts, notice where these words are used and how they're used. Don't overuse the words. They are common, but using them too much can make you sound uncertain or it can make you even sound sarcastic sometimes. And finally, practice with purpose. Try to incorporate one or two of these words into your next English conversation. Start with actually or basically, because those are the most versatile and most common. And remember about your tone. Like, remember that you can sound very sarcastic or you can sound genuine depending on the intonation of your voice. Like, seriously, blah, 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 or seriously, da 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 da, right? It's very different tone, different meaning entirely. So there you have it. These words are extremely common, but they're also pretty basic when you get down to it. And the more that you use them, the more that you practice with them, the more comfortable you will feel. So I really hope you enjoyed this episode on filler words. And let me know if you have any ideas for the next episode or something that's kind of connected to this topic that you would like to hear about. And also, please share your weekly wins in the comments below. I have forgotten to do this for the last month, I think. I know I'm horrible. I'm sorry. But if you have anything in your life that's going really well right now, or something that you did in an English class or in your job that you were really proud of, please share it in the comments below. I love to share this positivity with everybody. And I read the comments at the end of each episode. So if it's not something you're comfortable with other people knowing, then don't share. And if you want it to be read, but without your name, you want it to be anonymous, just put anonymous. My weekly win is that I'm in the second week of seeing someone that I really like, dating somebody. That's another way to say to date someone, to see someone. So I'm seeing this guy and I have a really good feeling about it and I'm feeling really positive. And it's the first time that I'm like trying to have a boyfriend in 2 years. So I feel very vulnerable, but at the same time, that's part of a relationship and, starting to date somebody, it's like it's a lot of vulnerability, but you just have to like trust that it's going to go okay. And it's scary, but it's exciting, and I'm really happy, and I'm feeling it feels very different this time. So fingers crossed for me, you guys, that this is like the one. So yeah, that's my weekly win, and I would love to hear some of yours. Thanks for listening and watching, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.